morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Hi, Ivan. I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me on your show. It's a great pleasure to see you.
Yeah. So basically, this conversation will be about a real close encounter of the third kind. And you're the person who you experience that and you have some impression of that. So for public in Bulgaria, that's not happening every day. Even in the world, I don't believe people meet face by face with ETs every day. So this is unusual. Uh, Me and the public, they would like to know how you feel, what happened, how happened that, your first encounter.
Okay. Well, again, thanks for asking me on the show. And it all really started when I was about 3 years old. My mother had engaged a photographer to take some photographs for the family album. And I was duly washed and had my hair brushed. And the photographer came. And then he decided to lift me up on the table, a dining room table that we had, a oak leaf table. And from that position, I had an elevated position to look around the room. But at that point in time, I realized my conscious energy was in a physical body again. And that was the first memory I had of being conscious, as it were. And I remember telling my wife that story when I met her, and she said 3-year-olds don't think about consciousness. And but I did, and I still do. And that was the beginning of my journey, really, with consciousness. And really, the thread throughout the ET contact is one of consciousness itself. So it starts at the early age of 3. And then the but first real encounter was I was 8 years old. And I was taking a bath at home, nothing unusual. And but I was always, as a child, I was always sensitive to the vibrational frequencies that were around us, the higher vibrational frequencies. And on this occasion, I was sat in the bath, just having a bath, and there was a change in the vibrational frequency in the bathroom. And I looked to my right and 2 beings appeared. They were slightly elevated off the floor, both very attractive, both with long blonde shoulder-length hair, wearing a tight-fitting blue jumpsuit type uniform, and they had deep blue eyes. They were speaking telepathically to one another, which I could understand. I was terrified by this, terrified. And there was one male, one female. I now know them. Their names are Ort, he's the male, Dee is the female. And that's the first contact I had with them. And Dee said to Ort, "Is this the boy?" And he replied, "Yes, this is the boy." And then she questioned him again and said, "Are you sure this is the boy? Look, he's small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence." And she was correct, I was. He said, "Yes, this is a boy. I will guide him. I will teach him." There was some other conversation, and then they left. As I said, I was terrified. I was so frightened, I didn't get out to the bath. The water went cold. I just didn't move. And my mother came in to ask why I was still in the bath, and the water was cold, and I was shivering. And I told her about the 2 beings, and she said it was just my imagination. And it wasn't. That was the beginning of my journey with Orton D. And I say it continues to this day. So that was my first encounter with the physical. And Orton D are Arcturians, they tell me. They tell me that I'm part of their extended family. The only difference is I live here in the 3rd dimension, where they live in the 5th dimension. And the only difference between the dimensions is the physical vibration at which they exist at. So over the years, they've taught me many things. But then probably the second thing was I was 9 years old.
Excuse me, just for a second.
Yes.
Let's tell the public that that's happening in United Kingdom, right?
All right. Yes. Yes. Yes, I lived in the UK. I now live in Florida, but I've moved over here 20 years ago. But that was in the UK. Yes.
What year that happened? Which year that's starting with you?
Oh, the year I was 8 years old. So I was born in 1954. So that would be 64, would it? 54? 50, no, 50, 62, I suppose. I think, if my maths is correct.
Okay, I'm sorry for
It's
interrupting.
okay. No, I was born in 1954, and it happened when I was 8 years old in a town where I lived at the time called Wakefield. So that's where it happened.
What kind of thoughts come to your mind when you saw this unusual thing?
When I saw them,
How you were scared?
yes, I was scared. I was frightened to death. I didn't know who they were. And I said they were slightly elevated off the floor. They were very attractive, human looking, but just unusual. I'm sure, Ivan, if it happened to you, if two beings materialized in the bathroom while you were having a bath, it's not the usual thing that happens, is it? So, and obviously being an 8-year-old boy, I was just a regular boy. I had my friends, we played out, we were a happy family. I've got a brother, my father was alive then, and we were just a happy young family, I suppose. But it's just fascinating, really, that we have this contact, or I have this contact with them, but I know of others now that have contact with them as well. So over the years, and I'm now 67, and as I say, I think I mentioned when I last spoke to you, I wouldn't have spoken out about it, except for about 3-4 years, maybe a bit longer now, I forget the time, but what happened was I got up in the middle of the night, bearing in mind I've had a lifelong contact with Orton D and others, and I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I came back into the bedroom. I was about to snuggle down into the bed, and there was a bright light outside the window. The light came into the bedroom and lit up the window like a myriad of butterflies, but it was just pure white light. And then Orton D materialized at the bottom of the bed, but obviously this time I'm not frightened. And after pleasantries, I asked them what was the reason for their visit. And they said, Kevin, we want you to talk about your lifelong interactions with us. We want you to write about your lifelong interactions. And I said, well, I don't mind talking about it, but I'm not a writer. And they said, well, we will continue to guide you. We will continue to teach you. And then we will give you some information to include in the book. In fact, you will write 2 books. And there's some other conversation there, and then they left. And then the following morning, I started writing the book, and I had it published, probably, I don't know, maybe 12 months later. And I now have 2 books published, as I said. The first one, Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, and the second one with 2 co-authors, Melissa Kennedy and Edgar Yo, Tap into Universal Energy.
Looks like, excuse me again. looks
Okay.
like they know you, because you said they talk each other, and the man asked the girl, is that the boy, or the girl asked the boy?
No, it was D, she's the female, asked the male, is this the boy? And he said yes. And then she obviously questioned him again and said,
but that's very interesting. They know you. They chose you.
I don't think it's chosen. I think there are I've met a lot of experiences now, Ivan, since I've been speaking out about it. I don't think we're chosen. I think that's probably the wrong word. I think they call me part of their extended family, which is fine, as we would have an extended uncle and extended aunt, but they would live in a different city where we live in a different dimension. But the only difference between the dimensions is that vibrational frequency, like tuning into a radio, to a frequency on a radio. So I don't think it's a case of being chosen. And I speak with many experiences like myself now who have had lifelong experience. And I think because I've been asked to speak out, now is the time that the ETs want to show themselves and more and connect with us, that the experiences are speaking out. So I don't think it's a matter of being chosen. I think it's just part of my extended family visiting and speaking with me, really.
Mm-hmm. So you say that they live in the 5th dimension?
That's what they tell me, yes. They are Arcturians, they tell me. They live in the 5th dimension. They are here at the moment, but because they're in the higher vibration, we don't see them unless they bring their vibrational down to our level, and then we can see them. So yeah, it's all normal to me, Ivan, because it's been all my life. So it's just like an extended family. And if I need more information, I can communicate with them and ask for more information.
When you're talking about dimensions, do you think that also we can think about parallel reality, or this is two different things?
I think it's an extension of our reality. They are here. So we don't see them because of the difference in the vibrational frequencies. But I'm able to communicate with them, as I think we all are. We probably just don't know that we have these abilities to communicate with them. But I mean, there's a lot of people now doing the CE5s, where they're initiating contact with the ETs, and they turn up in their craft and show the craft. And sometimes people will get a download or telepathic communication. So there's a lot of interaction now. Probably my contacts, I've probably realized, is quite extensive. But then when you speak with other experiences that have had contact from 2, 3, 4, 5, I even know one experiencer where his contact started, excuse me, before I was born in the womb. And it's really expanding on our understanding of the reality that we live in, the shared reality, and consciousness itself, I believe.
So since then, they still keep this contact with you, right?
Yes, my next contact was 9 years of age. And I was at home. I remember it was a Sunday. And I remember all these, it's just like embedded in my memory. I'm not quite sure why. But I was 9 years old. It was a Sunday. I'd been playing with some friends in my home, and it got to tea time, 5 o'clock, and they were leaving and going home for their tea. And as I closed the door to see them out the back door, I turned around and I felt a vibrational frequency in the house that wasn't there before. So I went looking for it, and I looked in the kitchen, looked in the living room. I went upstairs, looked in the bedrooms. It was strongest in the living room. So I went back down to the living room. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel that vibrational frequency. I then was drawn to the window and looked behind the curtain, or the drapes, as we say here in the US now. And there was an orb there. It was an orange orb, about 4 to 6 inches across. It was slightly vibrating, orangey yellow in colour, and as I say, slightly vibrating. There was no communication, but it was just there. So I was a bit perturbed by it because I didn't know what it was. And I thought that if my mother saw it, I'd probably get into trouble because I felt that I'd attracted it into the house or whatever. Bearing in mind, I'm just a nine-year-old boy, you know, and obviously not understanding these things at that age. So I thought, well, I'll go to bed this evening and hopefully it'll be gone in the morning. Well, I got up in the morning and I knew as I woke up, it was still there. So I went off to school. I came back from school and I thought, well, I hope it's gone now. And I opened the back door and I knew it was there. I walked in, I could feel the vibration. I went to the window, I looked behind the curtain, it was there. So, and that, it was there until the Friday. I came home from school on Friday, I opened the back door and the orb had gone. I could tell as soon as I opened the door, that vibrational frequency wasn't in the house anymore. Now, as I said, within that week, I have no recollection of any communication with the orb. But I now know that the orb was Ort, one of the ETs, the male one. That was his pure conscious energy, separated from his physical. As I said, there was no communication, but what happened after that, I was able to separate my conscious energy from my physical energy, from my physical body. And I was able to travel outside of my body as pure conscious energy. And I would just do that as a child, usually at the weekends, on Sunday possibly, and go over and visit my grandparents who lived 70 miles away. I would just relax, open my mind, separate my consciousness, travel over to their house 70 miles away, and I would sit upstairs they had a dressing room on the master bedroom, and I would look down through the floor, and the floor would be opaque. I would see my grandmother usually in the kitchen on a Sunday cooking, and my grandfather either watching TV or reading the newspaper. And I enjoyed being there, part of my extended family, but they lived 70 miles away. And at that time, I thought that was quite normal. I thought everybody did that. Everybody travelled out of body. I realise now that there are many that do, but it's not a subject we tend to talk about. But what was interesting, while I was sat there, I always wondered what they would see if they came upstairs while I was in the master bedroom dressing area there. And I know the answer to that. They would have seen a round orange orb, slightly vibrating, 4 to 6 inches across, orangey yellow in colour, my pure conscious energy. And I believe, well, I'm not certain whether Art showed me how to do that, or whether he activated some DNA, I'm not certain. But I just used it, and it was normal to me. And it wasn't until I got to about 16, 17. And I would use it, say, if we didn't have cell phones then, I didn't have a phone. If I was going out with friends, I'd just relax, open my mind, go over to their house first to make sure they were at home before I walked the 10, 15, 20 minutes to their home. And I would use it like that, just as like another sense, like hearing, scent, smell, taste, touch, and out-of-body travel. So that's how I used it. I would even use it. I remember going to work, I had to go to 2 choices of bus stops. And one was at the top of the street, and the other was, I took a different street, and it went to a bus stop, 2 or 3 bus stops further down. And between those stops, there was a school, and all the kids got off school. So sometimes I would go to the top bus stop, and there would be a line of kids, and I couldn't get on the bus. So what I would do, I'd come out of my house, I'd just zip up to using my conscious energy to see what the bus line, the queue was like, and then make a decision on which way to go. But again, that's just how I used it. It's just, it was part of me. But when I got to 16 or 17, I thought, well, nobody talks about this. Nobody mentions it. So I started asking my friends. But I asked in a third party. I said, I have a friend of mine that he says he travels outside of his body and he's able to go and visit people and do these things. And they all, no, he must be imagining, people don't do that. And then we didn't have the internet. So I just accepted it. It was part of me. It was who I was, who I am. And so I think I got to about 17 or 18 then. And I decided, well, there's more information here. I'm traveling outside of my body. Nobody talks about it. I'm going to ask Art and Dee. So that evening I went to bed and I relaxed. I opened my mind, as I call it. And I asked Art, I held my hand out and I said, Art, I need some help here. I know there's a lot more to who we are and there's a lot more information. Can you come and help me? Can you give me some more information? And I fell asleep. He came to me while I was asleep. He took hold of my hand and I left my body. Nothing unusual for me, but leaving my body with him. And as I looked down, I could see my body fast asleep. I was with Art. He was holding my hand. And we went out through the window. The window was closed. And then we just flew around the subdivision. And then we came back into the window. And then I looked down. I could see my body asleep. And I went back into my body. The following morning, I woke up and I thought, oh, that was cool. And I wasn't certain whether I was dreaming or whether it was real. So I thought, well, I'll try that again this evening. So the second evening, I relaxed. I opened my mind. I fell asleep. I asked Art to come and guide me. He came. He took hold of my hand. I left my body. I looked down. I could see it was asleep. It was quite happy there. And we went out through the window again. But this time we went a bit further. We went down into Leeds city centre where I used to work. I used to work at the university there. And we flew around. I recognised the buildings, the university, as I've just said, the hospital, the town hall. And then we came back to my apartment, back into the window. And I looked down and I could see my body. I was asleep. And I went back into my body. So that was 2 nights on the trot. I'm still not certain whether I'm dreaming, whether it's real. So I thought I'll try it for a third time. But I was a little bit perturbed because I wasn't certain whether I was sleepwalking. And my window is 3 stories up, and below at the bottom it's pavement, concrete, and a footpath. So I thought, I'm not quite happy about going out through this window. I'll ask him if we can go out through the roof. So again, the third night on the trot, I relaxed, I opened my mind, I held my hand out. He came, he took hold of my hands, just the same process. I looked down, I could see myself asleep, and I say to hold my hand, and we went out. No, before we went out, I asked him, I said, I'm not certain whether I'm dreaming or whether this is real. If I'm sleepwalking, I'm a bit frightened by, going out through this window. Can we just go out through the roof instead of going out through the window because of the height of the concrete below? He said, yeah, no problem. So we left and went out through the roof, and we flew around and we came back in through the roof. And all subsequent journeys with him like that, that I initiated, we would go out through the roof. Quite interesting, really. But I can probably see how it's progressing in relation. What I find is they give me experiences, and those experiences are the lessons. They don't sit me down in the classroom and say, Kevin, we want you to learn this, we want you to learn that. They give me actual experiences. And obviously, as a 9-year-old traveling over to see my grandparents, we're now expanding on that and going further.
So they teleporting to you, or they coming with the spaceship or something, some vehicle?
Right, okay. At that time, I didn't see any spaceship. No, it was just purely out-of-body travel. There was no, at that time, there was no spaceships involved. They came in a little bit later.
So maybe they teleporting, just show up?
Possibly teleportation. I did on one occasion. Art came to me one evening and he said, Kevin, I want to take you somewhere special tonight. Are you prepared to go with me? I said, yeah, I'm prepared to go anywhere you want to go. I'm happy traveling with you. So again, caught in my hand, we left through the roof. Only this time we just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And I could see clearly the planet. The blue planet, and it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. No sign of any craft, just me and Art traveling outside of our body as pure conscious energy. And we took what I call a right-hand turn, but I think we went into a higher dimension. Well, I know now that we did. We went into a higher dimension. And when we went into that dimension, there was a line of 30 people. At the head of the line was my deceased father. And he was stood up, he was 6 foot tall. And I had never seen him standing because he was always in a wheelchair from when I was born. And he'd obviously passed now. He passed when I was 9, I think, I believe, yes, 9. And he was stood at the front of this line of people. And there were 30 people there. And he was so pleased to see me. And the love that emanated from the group was just tremendous. I was just overwhelmed with this feeling of love. And he said, he greeted me. And he said, I'm going to introduce you to your family members, going back over 300 years. And these were 30 people. So as I went down the line, he introduced me to family members. They showed me what they did. They were speaking telepathically to me about their lives or their last physical, because we are in this higher dimension now, this higher level of consciousness. And but what was interesting, when I got halfway down the line to about the 15th person, instead of seeing a figure that looked physical, I saw the conscious energy orbs. So the next 15 were orange, yellow in color, vibrating, 4 to 6 inches across. Their conscious energy. But we still communicated telepathically, and they could still show me their last incarnation, shall we say, or their last physical. And I went with Art several times to visit with them. And I got so confident and comfortable with it, I would do it on my own. And I did that for a period of 2 years. I would relax at night, I would leave my body, go and meet with them, mingle with them, with my extended family. Again, I think we mentioned this earlier, but extended family that now live in the higher levels of consciousness because their physical had already passed. And I say I did this for 2 years. But every time I was going to leave from the group, they wanted me to stay. And I felt that if I stayed, my physical body would die. And I'd be fine up there with them because, again, the feeling of love, the interaction, just visiting with my extended family, fine. But I decided one night to go back. I thought, well, I'll have to go back and tell them that I'm not coming again after visiting them on a regular basis for 2 years. So I decided at work that night I would go back and visit them and tell them I won't be coming again. So I did. I relaxed. I opened my mind that evening. I went to visit them, and again, this feeling of love that just emanates from them. And they tried to persuade me to stay, and I said, no, I don't. I've got things to do. I'm enjoying my physical. I've got lots to do, and I know that when my physical dies, you will be here, and I will come back and visit with you. And I left, and I've never been back since. But I know that they're there. Again, it's just part of the extended family. Perhaps I have a different view of who we are because of the information and the experiences that Orton D and some of the other ETs have given me. It alters your perspective, I think.
Three questions come to my mind. First, looks like they look exactly like humans. Second, do you think that there's some, did they have an age?
Did they have an age, did you say?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I suppose they did. Yes, they all look different. I suspect the first 15, they showed me, well, they all seem to be like middle-aged, probably. Middle-aged. Yes, I would say middle-aged, thinking about it now. And obviously the ones that were just pure conscious energy, they didn't have any physical appearance at all, but they could show me a mental image through telepathy of what they looked like in their last physical. And again, I remember one he told me that he was a blacksmith in the 1600s, I think, something like that. I can't remember the exact date now, but he was a blacksmith, and he showed me where he worked, or gave me the image of that. So, yeah, different ages, really, different ranges. Yeah, I never really thought to explore the age side of it. It was just the fact that going to visit them, it was just such a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. And also you say that if you're going to stay over there, maybe your physical body will die.
Yes, I felt that. I felt that, yes.
Looks like we cannot measure the same way the time here in our dimension and the time over there in the fifth dimension, right?
Yes, I would say. I don't know what dimension the deceased family members were in, whether it's higher than the fifth dimension or not, I don't know. Again, I didn't ask that question. Bearing in mind, at this time I was what, 16, 17, 18, over that period of time when I was, so I'm still learning myself. And obviously I can't share these experiences with anybody because people will just think that you were delusional or you were dreaming or whatever, you know. So I didn't really speak about it to anybody. My brother was aware, and I spoke about it later to my wife when I first met her in relation to my experiences, because obviously I was going to ask her to marry me, and I thought it would be unfair not to let her know about these experiences and the fact that I can see deceased people and things like that. So, but I did tell her, and she was quite okay with it, and we're still together today. We've got 40 years wedding anniversary this year, I think. So, yeah.
Did they tell you that in the future our planet will going to die and we will be destroyed from us, like human race?
No, they haven't. They haven't told me that specifically. They have told me that they're very concerned in relation to the pollution on our planet. They're very concerned that we're not taking care of the planet, and the planet and its resources are being destroyed. And they're particularly concerned about the. Just recently, they've told me about the Fukushima plant that exploded and has now polluted the Pacific Ocean. So they're very concerned about that. So yeah, they are concerned about the planet. They are concerned about us. And they are here to help, assist, and we just need to open up to them and allow them to come and help us and assist.